Our mission statement for the label is very similar to my mission statement for my management company, which is, in a simple form, to help our in this case, our clients, our bands on the label, to meet their goals and to do ethical business, which is an interesting thing because as a label, you're paying people to work for you. And one of the things that I realized as a manager who was encouraging labels to hire independent marketing companies and publicists and radio indies and so forth was that all these people, they may have loved my bands, but they were waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get paid. And they were always being pressured to cut their rates and come in and do things cheaper, right? So one of the things that my partner and I at Dangerbird decided was that we would pay people quickly. We would ask them to give us an indie rate because we're an indie. We can't afford the same amount of money that Warner can, theoretically. But we could pay them quickly. And we figured that that would actually really help us because it would create a feeling of goodwill and camaraderie and teamwork. And lo and behold, it's actually working. And we're signing great bands who are making great music, all of whom feel like they're part of a team and part of a family at Dangerbird. And therefore, when they go out there to play shows and do interviews and do radio performances and so on, they're actually excited about what they're doing. They're not sort of like encumbered by this weird negative vibe and why are we doing this and we don't like working at all this, because it's a crappy job getting up at 6 in the morning and playing at midnight. And we've actually been able to see our mission statement through, at least for the first 2 years. We haven't had much of an opportunity to violate our mission statement yet, and I hope we won't, you know? We have an interesting situation. We have private financing that we don't talk about. But again, the one thing I will say about our financing is that we sort of accidentally stumbled into wanting to start a label. It's a crazy idea, right? It costs a lot of money. It's an incredibly risky proposition. You have to sell yourself like a madman in the front end to lawyers, to managers, to the bands themselves, to producers, to mixers, to studio owners, to the distribution company people when you're pitching your label for distribution. And you have to really put yourself on the line and sell yourself in a way that is, frankly, very uncomfortable. But we decided that we needed to create a solution to what I call the major label problem. And it's an interesting thing for me to say as a manager who manages bands on major labels. But the major label challenge, I'll say in a more appropriate way, is that major labels are big, monstrous machines. And most people who work for major labels will admit this. They move very quickly when they have a huge hit on their hands. But to get a band from 0 records to 20,000 records is maybe something they aren't great at these days. And most label executives that I know would admit that. Most major labels are looking to sign bands that are already on an indie where they can pay them a premium price or pay the label a premium price to get them. Death Cab for Cutie being signed to Atlantic off of Barsuk is a great example. Green Day being signed off of Lookout Records is a great example. I don't know if they were on Lookout or if they just had a one-off deal, but they put out a record and I believe an EP on Lookout, a tiny little indie, and then they became attractive to Warner Records. And they were in existence, I like to say. They weren't just a band with a demo. We are looking to build Dangerbird Records as a full label. We are not looking to build a band and then sell them off to a major. I'm not saying we're against that. I'm saying that we're looking to build Dangerbird to be like Epitaph Records, like Jade Tree Records, like Barsuk, like Rough Trade and Heavenly in England. We don't want to be a glorified production company that has a distribution deal. This all came from me shopping a record for one of my clients and finding people saying, God, this is a really great record. We had a completed record, which 2 years ago in America was kind of a weird thing to be shopping. The major label business in America 2 years ago was still in this mode of send me your demos, please, and then I'll sign you and then I'll make you into the creation that I see fit. Two years on, today, major labels are signing readily produced things with artwork done, websites done, with an agent, with a lawyer, a lot more, because they're realizing that they don't want to pay the upfront money. This is more the way Miramax Pictures and other movie companies have done things for the past 10, 15 years. They do receipts deals. They say, okay, great, I like your product. How much did it cost you to make it? Show me your accounting. I'll pay you $750,000 for your actual receipts, plus another $500,000 as a premium to thank you for doing all the work, and we'll get it out in 4 months. And we find that that at Dangerbird we could be in that position with our artists, or we could be in the position that Miramax has gotten into, where they actually decided to take the success they have with those kinds of deals and actually start making their own pictures and take them straight to market on their own. We have a deal with ADA Distribution, which is the independent distribution arm of Warner Music Group, who are, in my opinion, the best distribution company in America. They have a very human feel. They, like the people in the Warner Music Group on the record side, they are music guys. They really love music. They love marketing their labels, whether it's Epitaph or Sub Pop or Barsook or Matador. They turn up at our shows. They're really invested emotionally in what we're doing, and they've really made it possible for us to go from a label that no one ever heard of to a label that I think a lot of people are talking about now within 2 years. And they make it so that we can cover a lot of ground very quickly. The path for us to go from a couple of guys who had a cool idea and a cool label name and a business plan and financing to getting a distribution deal was actually surprisingly short, and I never ever take this for granted, but because I'm a manager, I am friends with all kinds of people in the music business, and one of the people I'm friends with is the head of sales at Warner Brothers Records, and I just called him up and told him what we were doing and asked if he could help. He put me together with the head of ADA, a guy called Andy Allen, and he basically, in one email, got me in the room so that I could give my pitch to Andy Allen. I actually did it over the phone. I emailed him our written business plan and our pitch. I sent him a PDF. We did a conference call. We did another conference call. He was very hardcore. I thought that Andy did not like our idea. I thought that he was going to walk away, and I thought he was just doing my friend Dave Stein a favor by taking the meeting with me. And what ended up happening is that Andy put me through the ringer. He crunched our numbers. He vetted us 4 different ways. And every time I thought we were at the end of the vetting process, he asked me to give him the numbers in a different way. He asked me all the tough questions. He told me, listen, you know, most people end up with the greatest ideas and end up crying at the end of the day because they're just bleeding money and they can't get ahead of themselves. So he said to me, I want to talk you out of this. Eventually, he said, I'll talk to you on Monday and let's figure this out. And I thought, for sure, this guy is going to kick me to the curb. Lo and behold, he said, let's do it. You've passed the test. And so we got a production and distribution deal with ADA, which, again, was my fantasy. They were the only distribution company we talked to. I figured, you know, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and talk to other people. And Andy told me, like, look, I value the idea that you're a manager and that you manage producers and that you understand how to make records and that you understand how to get bands. And I'm going to bet on you and see how this works out. And I met with him in February of this year to go through sort of our 2006 of releases, and he told me that we were one of the labels that they were looking at graduating from their, he didn't use these terms, but I'll say from their C list to their C+ list or their B list. He's looking at building Dangerbird on a long-term level because he sees that we're doing good business. We haven't even sold that many records yet, but he's seeing the kind of business that we're doing, the kind of people that we're bringing on board to help market our records and sell our records, and he likes it.
Are you looking at digital distribution too?
Yeah, we love digital distribution. ADA happens to have 4 or 5 people in the digital distribution, marketing and sales area. They have more people than any independent distributor out there. They have somebody that they're just hiring here in LA to work out of their office at the Warner Music Group headquarters in Burbank, and they have 3 or 4 people in New York, and they've been great for us. They do all of our digital propagation, so we had the choice to go with them for all of that or to go to an outside firm, and I decided these guys are taking a risk on us up front to do a P&D deal with us. Why don't we do everything with them and A, give them a piece of the financial cut, and also keep it all under one roof so that all the good stuff we're doing digitally, they can see it, and they can see that Dangerbird has sales along many different lines, not just physical. The kinds of deals that we do, contractually speaking, are the same kinds of deals that major labels do with artists. We use what I would consider to be a simple contract form. I think everybody's doing simple contract forms now because it costs too much money to do complicated contracts. But we do a standard royalty contract form. We have not yet done a 50-50 split. We believe that we should pay our artists fairly. We pay mechanicals to our artists, which is something many major indie labels do not do. We pay our mechanicals every 6 months to all of our artists, whether they've sold 2 records or 20,000 records, because that's, first of all, it's the law. It's set by Congress and you're supposed to pay it. The second thing is we want our artists to be making money, because if you don't pay your artists, you create a very, very uncool situation with them. We don't believe in doing hippy-dippy deals or trying to run our label like a vegan bakery or like some sort of a socialist co-op, because the fact of the matter is we're spending real money to make real records, to market our artists in a way that is competitive with the way major labels market their artists. As a result, we can't cut our artists in on any sort of a greater scheme than what the major labels do. At some point, if an artist comes to us who's sold 100,000 records and they want to have a cooperative kind of a deal with us and put some of their money on the line or somehow change the thinking, we're absolutely open to that. The name of the game for us is being flexible and being cooperative and smart. We believe when we're negotiating a deal with an artist that negotiating is not a dominance-oriented function. Negotiating is when we exchange our realities with the other party in trying to create a legal bond with them. I think that the days of trying to dominate people and kick them in the teeth while you're trying to get married to them, I think are over for guys like me. Maybe if you're someone who's had 8 platinum records, or you're a lawyer who's extremely, extremely quote-unquote powerful, you can do that. But I think most of us are trying to create a situation where we're making a living, and we're making a living that is sustainable. And so kicking people in the teeth and treating people like shit and acting crazy, it just can't happen anymore. We feel that doing honest work and ethical work is what is going to help us to have a future. Because as an indie label, or as a manager at a boutique management company, one of the greatest things that I could have is to do ethical business and to have people saying good things about us, or at the very least not saying bad things about us. What a novel concept. And some of my favorite managers out there, John Silva to name one of them, is a guy who people love. You know, he's managed Sonic Youth. Sonic Youth brought him Nirvana. Sonic Youth brought him a number of other bands over the past 20 plus years that he's managed them. And he's had a legacy. He's managed some of the biggest bands in the history of rock and roll. Beck, Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Jimmy Eat World, AFI, Tenacious D. And it's because he has a good reputation. And he has a good reputation not because he's running around asking people to say good things about him. It's because he's doing the work, and he's not creating ill will wherever he goes. He's creating goodwill wherever he goes. That, to me, is an inspiration.